ponies in the Shire. Welcome back to the Shire. It's Tony at Hobbit Racing, and this pony, this Mustang right here, is done. Let's see how it turned out in part 2. All right, here we go. Here we go. First laps. First laps with the Mustang. First laps with that. I don't even know really what to call that livery. It's Wilson Security and West Track Cat. Yeah, I don't even know. That might be an Australian. That might be that Australian Trans Am situation. So 8 and 8, you know me, right? Woo, I rolled it over before I could even get a real lap. How about that? What does that tell you? That tells you that there's maybe not enough weight in the car already. I did weigh the car. It currently weighs 81 grams. I will tell you, my 2 Camaros, not that one, this is a beautiful car right here. I have not tuned it yet. My 2 Camaros weigh about 90 grams, lots of weight. Look at that, you can't make that up right there. Switching lanes. Yeah, okay, we're getting somewhere. I'm not sure where we're getting, but we're getting somewhere. We'll back away maybe and get out of the way of the track while we're at it. Yeah, it's very, very loose and not heavy enough. There's 6.5 grams, including probably the sticky paper in there, and this car is just too light. It's also too light, but it's also much more narrow than, I mean, my Camaros are pretty narrow too, but these Mustangs are just narrow cars. Now, it's not helping that I don't remember if I cleaned the track today. So, if I didn't clean the track, it might take a few laps if I did not clean the track to really figure out what our straight line speed's going to be. But cornering's going to be an issue. Cornering's absolutely going to be an issue that we're going to have to work on. Now I can already tell I don't have the takeoff power that I want. I usually run a lot of my 18K motors at 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go down to 6 o'clock already and give myself some punch. Ooh, I almost tipped her on the sweeper. You can see that. We turned a 6-1 without, we did a lot of good initial work, but I wouldn't say we've honed in on anything yet. So 10 laps in, it's a 6-1-5. So let's see what that might mean. What it means so far is we're almost a half a second off the pace, let's just say. I think 5.8 is where we want to be, so not a half a second. We're about a third of a second off the pace. The track is still coming clean. We do have to get these sharp edges off. That's going to help us in the corners as well. But this car is just, when I feel the balance, I mean, that car just wants to come right up out of the slot. I can feel it. Everything is, we're at like, we're not even, never mind 70-30. We're at about maybe 80-20 here. That is just so light in the front of the car. Got lots of body float dialed in here to begin with. Just I got to remove this on this side. I don't know if it can be seen unless I bring it up on the camera here, but we're hanging up right there. We're not hanging up on that side. That side's nice, but I might even be able to hear it on my microphone. But then the other side makes no noise. Yeah, There you go. Let's run a few more laps because this car looks gorgeous running around the track here. See if I can at least get it into the fives. I just can't. I can't push it. I can't push it in the corners. Yeah, 6.1, a 6.09. So, yeah, it definitely needs a bit of TLC up front. I'm happy with the guide. The guide is definitely pretty solid. I might have to adjust the screw. It might have left it a little bit too loose. It feels like I can, yeah, feels like I can bring it up and down just a fraction compared to where it should be, but got pretty good action in there. Gear lash is feeling wonderful as it's continuing to break in. And I don't think I'm rubbing because the Mustang out of the box with CB34s tends to be the wheel well tends to be above it, and it doesn't look like I'm doing anything to come anywhere near it. So it looks like we've got that solved. And that bit of body float that I'm rubbing against there where the, oh gosh, the rear bumper has just got a strange, not a strange angle. It just happens to have an angle coming off of where the body float is that I created. I've already trimmed and dremeled the edge of the chassis and where the bumpers are attached, but I'm going to take a little bit of sandpaper and do the rest of it because that's not a situation where it's coming from the, you know, a spot to be able to Dremel. I want the car to still look nice where the silver bumper aligns with the rear taillights, and if I do it with the Dremel instead of a file, I'm going to make a mess out of it. I'm going down to 6 and 6. Now 6 on the brake. I don't think this car really needs that much brake. It has a good strong braking so far. Ooh. Just a tad early on the accelerator. Wow, that was a gutter shot. That was a gutter ball right there. And since I haven't cleaned the track, yeah, okay. I'm pushing it. I promise you I'm not this bad a driver. Almost de-slotted again right there. It just doesn't have enough weight. It just doesn't have enough weight. I don't even know why I'm bothering right now. I'm having fun, but I don't know why I'm bothering right now with this. How many times can I bounce off a 74 and come back on the slot underneath the Rolex bridge, huh? Okay, that's enough. We're going to put some more weight in it. All right, we're back. We have taken care of most of this body float situation in the back by this just barely pick up on something. I'll clean that up, but we got a real good amount of body float here. A real good amount of body float, a little bit less, just a little waggle back and forth where I really want the rear of that body to give me some swing back and forth. We cleaned up the tires here. We took care of most of the sharp edges. Might have to do it one more time, but I was pretty aggressive on the 34s. I was pretty aggressive on the CB34s. So, and oh yeah, I threw 3 more grams of weight right on top of those other 3, but I put it right down the middle. So I'll tell you what, let's just spend an extra moment here and get a weight. I think this car weighs about 85 grams if my hands are right. Wow, that's creepy. 84.6. I knew it was in the 80s before, but didn't exactly know where. So we got an 85 gram car. That's starting to approach where we need to be with these Scalies. Probably might even add even more weight to it. It's not going to take away from the speed of the car. It's a misconception. Yes, eventually, you know, you make the thing weigh 120 grams, you're going to have a slow car. But the idea of adding 5, 6, 10 grams of weight, it's not going to hurt what's happening in the car. Shoot, I probably removed that much when I cleaned up the interior of it. Oh, I already don't like something up there. I just heard. I think my braids are, yeah, my braids are too. Hang on, I got to do the old trick. Got to do the old trick and round my braids a little bit here. Must have one small spot of relief over there that I didn't account for on the top of the hairpin hill climb, or occasionally what'll happen with new braids, and don't get caught yourself doing this or not doing this. Sometimes you have to widen those braids. Sometimes you've got to take these braids and you're going to have to spread them a little bit because you've got a little bit of different width compared to where your braids are on the track compared to the guide, holding the braids closer to the guide. All right, let's see what happens now. All right, well, that was a bad example at the end of the front straightaway, but I already cut off over half a tenth right there. That already took off half a tenth. I still believe more weight can be added to this car. I mean, there's 9 grams inside of this car already. And I don't know, but if I just put the Camaro behind the Mustang, or if I put the Camaro, let's do this for a second, right? If I put the Camaro on top of the Mustang, I can't see the Mustang anymore. So that just tells you in terms of width. And yeah, you could be a little bit more fair in that evaluation, and you could put them up against each other, behind each other, and look at the wheels. They're not that different, but the body and the weight distribution does make a difference. All right. Hopefully I'm not too far in the way of the sweeper over there. Let's see what we can do. Let's keep going. A little bit of D-slot in there. All right, I'm decently happy for a first round. I really wasn't quite sure, frankly, if this car would handle, the Cudas, the Camaros, both variants. But there's also something to be said. Maybe I'll go to 1336, or maybe I'll go to 1335. This is my first shot at 1334. I'm going to stay with the 13-tooth pinion because I have a lot more opportunities to make minor incremental changes versus if I plop that off and go to a 12, and then I got to start over again in terms of climbing the ladder on the spur. But I don't know why I put that down. And so, maybe I'll dial it up a notch a little bit more on the takeoff power for sensitivity, but at some point it's going to be more than that. As I keep pushing the limits and look like a terrible, terrible slot car driver, but that's all right. You guys can make fun of my crashes. If only my crashes were happening in a place that was viable for you to see them, but I'm wrecking under the bridge, so there's no fun in those wrecks. I'll try and get a good wreck in somewhere and put it in on slow-mo, right? But I also should take a feel. It's better, but I still feel like we're 70-30. I need to get to 60-40. I need to have a solid maybe 10 or more grams of weight in the front of that car. And even the fact that I put a little bit on each side to try and balance it out is way better for me, in my opinion, than down the middle. I need that whole entire front end planted. Definitely takes off very well. I like the takeoff. Could be a little bit. All right, there we go. There's our first 5.98. As I literally lift and coast over there. All right, 5.98. Now we're in the ballpark, right? 5.98. So I'm 2/10 away from. Hang on. I'll polish that. Got to polish that lid a bit. I see some scuffs already from turning her over. Now we're 2/10 away. Now, are we going to get 2/10 back? By changing to a 36 or a 35, maybe that could be the difference. Will it drive appropriately with that gearing? Will it drive the same as the other Trans Ams that I have? Of course it won't. Every car drives differently, but the car is also getting broken in. This is the first 30 laps this car has seen. I expect it to get faster. I expect it to get more used to swaying back and forth in the slot, right? All those things that you guys know, or if you don't know, you learn. From crashing like that, spinning upside down, that is definitely a spot that is contentious for me at the moment with this car. So I think we've achieved what we wanted to out of our initial tuning. Now it's going to be to fine tune. I'm also going to do the old tire switch trick. I don't know why I do this. A little birdie told me about this a long time ago. Sometimes it's about the break-in. Yes, I stuck the tire in my mouth. Sometimes it's just about tires seating a certain way. I need that spit to get them to slide on there. I'm going to take it to the rolling road and just make sure they're on there smoothly. I could get slower, or I could get faster. Or I could get faster. Bad driver. Nope. I think it was the way it wanted to be. I'm coming close to turning the same laps, but I'm running ragged. I'm coming close to turning almost the identical laps. I think I ran a 6:02. I think the car handled better with the tires on the other rims. The tires opposite, so we're going back. We're going back to the way that they were. Definitely got those sharp edges knocked off of here, so we are as true as they're going to get. But I think we're going to be changing the gear in that to a 36. If I have a red 36T, 18 millimeter, I think I did an 18. Yeah, we're basically approaching a 6-second flat car, and ooh, hello. We're approaching a 6-second flat car in blue, and that's nothing wrong with that. I can't really produce that 598 right now, but that's okay. Yeah, 601. So we're going to try changing the gears. All right, so I am to 35, and I think I'm liking what I'm seeing. It's not necessarily broken in and as fast as my other Camaros, but we're making our way. Very smooth, very consistent takeoff. Really liking what I'm getting. I've turned some 5s, but there's a 5.95. We're absolutely turning good times, but they're not exceptional times, but they're good times. And I still think I might have to deal with the weight. I put 3 more grams of weight in the front of this car, but I think I might have to do a little bit more than that. But 592, 595 I just ran. It's a good car. I think we're about a 10th off. I think a good race winning time might be 5.82, 5.81. So, I expect it to get a little bit faster. I expect maybe I'll dial in the handling. I have an awful lot of float in the body. Maybe that's too much float. Maybe I'm only creating more sway, too much sway, right? At some point there's too much sway. So, yeah, I'm going to dial the brake back a little bit, and then I'm going to really crank up the sensitivity to 4. 100 laps in, 592, first 100 laps on the car. Boy, but that pony looks pretty. Woo! 602. At least I barrel rolled it back on its tires, right? Give myself a little shoe shine on the roof because heaven knows I've turned this car over. Oh, what? At least a half a dozen or dozen times. Yeah, I think we're gonna call it. I think we're gonna call it done at 13:35 is where I'm calling it done here. So yeah, that's fine with me. It'll get faster. I'm within 1/10 of my other Scalextrics Camaros, and so who knows? We'll have that Castrol one to do next. These are just such fun cars. They're the ultimate tuning. You get to tweak something about every particular part of the car. And then you get to enjoy that wonderful slot car body that is vintage about all of these Trans Ams. Come on, give me a nice one. I want to hear that TrackMate sound one more time before we turn this off. Not that time. Not that time. We're close. We're driving solid 6 flats. Believe me, those are very respectable times for an 18,000 RPM motor in the blue lane with a narrow car. So I think that's about where we're going to land for this car. I think that is fantastic. We're going to break this down here in a moment because running consistently 5.9, as you can see right there, is pretty stinking good. And we'll look at the amount of weight that I ended up putting in this car as well. That's this a very fun car. A very fun car to drive, just handles marvelously. And of course, you know, it's a Scalextric, you know, non-potted car. So of course it's, you know, susceptible of barrel rolling on you, but I have done everything, all the tips and tricks that I was mentored over the years, and these Scalextric Trans Ams are absolutely a tuner's class if you do that at your club, and they're just, gosh, this car is beautiful. Let's break down how we got here. Let's first start by taking a look at the outside of the car, right? So I had done some custom paint work with some, oh gosh, I think it was Tamiya or Testors. I'll share what it was, and played around with the wheels as far as that goes. And so I matched up the inserts to the same paint color that I put on the front and the rear, or very close. I guess there's a little bit of a hue, maybe still shining through from the front ones, but I believe it came out quite nicely, at least to my design liking. So let's start out with the screws. So in here are, I believe these are CH51s. I'll make sure and verify, and again, I'll have a link to these items in the description for sure. These are very, very long, non-threaded shoulder screws. So you have that beautiful smooth shoulder. Hold one of these up to the camera for a moment. So you have that wonderful, wonderful shoulder that has all of that body float capability. Very long screw as well, which is really helpful for the scaly body posts in this case, combined with the chassis, especially in the front where you have about 3 different pieces to make your way through, or into, I should say, including the body post. There's a little bit of a header from the grille and the bumper here that's underneath it that we'll take a look at, and definitely achieved a good bit of body float. At least a millimeter worth of body float. And again, that's a preference thing. That's your driving. That's your that's going to be your driving skill, your driving preference as far as how that goes. So I tell you, I'd always be one to tell you to dial back the body float a little bit. So let's take a look underneath to start with. So we've got a carded interior. This is like stuff I saved from like office supplies. And then I taped it because I had to redo something, so I got rid of the glue. The glue also was adding a little bit of extra weight by using hot glue, and I had enough. This car barrel rolled on me a number of times, and I wanted to go as light as possible, so I went with strapping tape here. We'll push that strapping tape down just a little bit more than it was. Also had to come back in here and I had to Dremel out just the edge of what I did. Now, of course, I could come back and I could take some more of this if I wanted to and tape it in there, but you can't see that unless you're really, really looking inside of there. We're not breaking any rules. The guy, there's a driver in there, his hands are on the wheel. It's, I can't even see who the driver of this car was originally. Wow, really and truly, I could read it if I could read it, but just even with glasses on, it's too small for me. It's John Bowe. There you go. There you go. Let's give credit where credit is due. So John's in there with his hands on the wheel. And this is what I was talking about, right? You've got to go through this and into the body post. So these screws are especially helpful in the front, and they're quite long in the back in terms of the body post. So another thing is I didn't glue this in here. Your car's going to have some waggle, right? And so your body's going to have some waggle. And if you glue these in here sometimes, depends on your preference, you're going to stiffen it up. And in my case with these Scalextrics, I want as much free-flowing movement as I can, so I did not choose to glue that in there, tape it, or otherwise. All right, so what do we have here? We have CB34 extra firms on the back on CB Design 15 by 8 rims, 15 by 8 wheels. And then we have the inserts on here that are the matching inserts to the front. These are the original wheels on the front. I've done a little bit of scuffing and a little bit of work here to just have the exposed edge of the tire touching the track when it's rolling. And again, this is an indication that I've spoken about many times. I know the relief and the braid gain, whatever you want to refer to it as, on my track. And so if I can put it down on a slot car corner or any very well-machined CNC setup block, maybe not MDF like the one below it, and I can go like this, I know that I'm at the right height, but you've got to check that yourself and figure out where you want your guide to be resting. We have a Predator 18,000 RPM motor in here. I think it's spec'd out at 12 volts to just over 20,000 RPMs. These motor wire leads are soldered underneath the tabs of the motor, just in case we had any issue here, right? Just in case we, of our initial greasing, just in case we had any issue resting on the top here. It's not glued in yet, but it's about to be glued in, or maybe I will put the slightest bit of super glue on these sides. I recommend it. You can shake that motor if you wanted to all day long, and I'm already getting 5.9s within a tenth of my fastest Scalextrics. So back to where we were here, 1335. This is a slotted 13 6.5 millimeter Sidewinder gear. This is a 35 tooth 19 millimeter Sidewinder gear. Slotting plus axle in the back. Slot car corner bushings glued in, so the whole entire rear end is going to be solid and set. You've noticed I've done some, I don't know, decent. I could do better, but it's the piece of tape and the way that it landed. Some wire management here where I was really, really interested in getting out of my way, getting the wire out of the way. I was going out of my way, pardon me, to do some really good wire management on this car because I wasn't sure if I was going to go underneath the front axle. Turns out this works out perfectly the way that it is. I put a joke on Facebook about guess how much weight I put in here because you can see these. You want to know what these are? If anybody doesn't know what these are counterbalance weights for fans, as in like ceiling fans in your house. But I mean, come on, how nice is that? 3, 3, and 3, and then we have another just over 5 between them. So right here, I've got almost 15 grams of weight in here. Was it needed? Absolutely it was needed. I need this entire part of the car to be planted firmly because of the fact that this car is so narrow and wants to barrel roll. This is a tuner's class at Hobbit Racing Park. This is how we do it. This is like, just motor wire that I had a 6-pack of, and this time I happen to choose, I think it's 22 gauge or 24 gauge, and I just happen to choose red or whatever, green and blue. No real mystery on that one. Slotting Plus SP101001 guide with the screw that comes with and the eyelets. NSR super soft braid, I believe it's 4839 is the braid for that. And again, the CG guide adapter is underneath there, putting the gooseneck flush with the bottom of the chassis. And then we have a 0.010 of an inch guide spacer underneath there. We also have, I believe, 0.04 of an inch, because that's just the way that they're registered online, with sideways instead of in millimeters for the axle spacing up here. There's also one of those on each side here, and there's also a 0.02 axle spacer on the non-gear side, a nylon from Slot Car Corner. And that is the entire build out, short of the strapping tape. And this car handles so well with all of this weight packaged on here. I could even potentially grab that weight, maybe if it could settle on top of there, put it there, but I'm so close. With my 18,000 RPM motors, oftentimes, especially if I get the good takeoff power that I want and I don't have any chirping, I can turn the sensitivity pretty much, I don't know if you want to call it all the way up or all the way down, but I'm removing the entire electrical potential from being withheld in the Professor motor controller. So I'm removing that 25 ohms of resistance, and I'm getting instant on power, and it's great takeoff, no chirping, and then I'm running the brake at about 6 o'clock, because it does have great run out, great rollout. There's less braking power in this motor combined with this gear ratio than I've done with 1334. That one tooth made a little bit of a difference for me with this particular build. And that's really it. What you see is what you get. We want to make sure that the information gets out there in the slot car world. There's no secrets in terms of that. It's not like I'm running this in some, big race that I don't want to share with this. And I want everybody out there to understand what I do with my Scalextric Trans Ams to make them more drivable. Maybe you just want to do something to make it more drivable. Maybe you're not interested in tearing up the entire rear end and putting bushings and a new axle, and you're still going to be happy with the motor that comes stock with it and the gear ratio, and you just need to put on whatever tires are amenable for your track if you don't use rubber shore tires. And maybe you say, oh, wow, he's got a really nice opportunity that he created here by putting all of this weight in here to help this car stay planted on the track. Take whatever is the best thing that you can take from this video. I'm super happy. I'm so happy. I think it looks amazing. Is it the lowest running Trans Am that I have? No, it's not the lowest running Trans Am that I have in terms of how it sits, how the body sits on the chassis, but man, it's sweet looking. Thanks for joining me as always. Man, I never get tired of looking at this car. I don't know, there's something going on here. Maybe it's fall, it's almost Halloween, but there's something going on here. The orange, maybe it's me. It's orange and black in the car, but yeah, this one sure is a pretty car, and I'm super thrilled with the way that it came out. So if you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button. Give us some likes and give me some feedback in the comments. Thanks for watching.
If you don't subscribe to Hubble Racing, I'll poke you with my staff. Pokey, pokey, pokey. She will poke you with her staff.